Hello and welcome to the Action Coach Business Spotlight. I'm John Boggis, and with my wife Lorna McAteer, we run Action Coach in Cambridge, helping businesses right across the Cambridge region. And with me today, I'm delighted to say I have Steve Donegal, and Steve is the Managing Director of Alpha Vet Tech. Hello, Steve.
John, it's a pleasure. Thank you very much for the opportunity.
It's fantastic to have you on, Steve. And just to kick things off and give us a little bit of background, would you tell us a bit about your business, Steve?
Yes, absolutely. Alpha Vet Technology is a med tech company formed out of a group of animal lovers, some technical, primarily to really improve the well-being of our companions. We've developed a wearable technology in conjunction with the Swiss that really does change the way vets will interact with their patients. It monitors their vital signs and takes advantage of the Internet of Things and really gives them a stable platform to non-invasively measure the vital signs of their patients.
Fantastic. And what's the benefit to the animals, Steve, of kind of having their vital signs more closely monitored?
Yeah, so great question. Firstly, if you're a vet, to get the vital signs from any of your patients, you have to physically touch them. Typically, a quick temperature setting is gauged through a rectal thermometer. You typically don't get heart rate, you don't get blood oxygen levels, but you can get a good sense of the patient's health by monitoring its temperature and listening to its heart through a thermometer. This device does all of that automatically. Once it's clipped onto the patient, it can be on the tail primarily, or vet wrapped to a thigh bone where a femoral artery is accessible. And it'll do all of that continuously and record that information in real time and report it back to the vet on a portal on any smart device in practice or anywhere, any location around the world.
Fantastic. Yeah. So instead of an animal having to be under observation constantly, you can be automatically alerted if you divert from a threshold.
Absolutely. And I guess there's several stages, John. Firstly, typically a patient isn't monitored closely unless they're under some sort of anesthesia. And in terms of the information that's gleaned from that, it's more situational awareness. Whereas the wireless zoo is really built to monitor patients in any situation from the time that they are, I guess, consulted in the reception area. We can get baseline information when the patient's calm. The device can stay with the patient through its journey, the vet, right the way through to recovery. And it complements the services that the vet employs day to day, but it also gives them a lot of automation in terms of record keeping and time stamping back to the patient record, which really does save time.
Fantastic. And it all sounds like it adds to the safety for the animal itself. So
absolutely, especially in the critical phases of recovery, where the gold standard, of course, means that you monitor your patients, within a certain frequency. This device gives the vet a very clear display. It can be viewed on a wall-mounted screen, looking at one patient individually, or they can be monitoring 10 patients simultaneously at various stages through the practice, or even monitoring patients that are at home recovering. And they can see all that on a very simple dashboard. And it really does save them time. And if any of the patients that are being monitored have any of their parameters fall outside of any set parameters established by the vet, then there will be an alert to the system. And that'll either go via text message to one individual who's responsible, or it'll flash up on the screen for all to see.
Fantastic. And when you were growing up, was technology and animals always the direction you wanted to head in, Steve?
No, for me, I started life like most people, aspiring to something. I mean, my aspirations were more aviation, military orientated. I did a lot of sport. Wasn't particularly engaged with animal health. I'm not a vet. and that makes me different. But my value add in this organization is that I've established many new technologies into global markets, from concept right the way through to businesses that have eventually gone on to be acquired by blue chip companies. So I bring an international flavor of I guess, international business and introducing concepts and new technologies and establishing the go-to-market on a global scale. And that's what I do for AVT, as not just an investor and a partner with the co-founders and my fellow directors. We all have our individual responsibilities, from technical to legal to economics and R&D.
Yeah, fantastic. And since you've been going with Alphabet Tech, what would you say has been the biggest issue that you've had to overcome, Steve?
That's a great question, John, and one that holds a bittersweet taste for us. We took the decision to move our headquarters from Australia, where we originally founded the company, to the UK. And we base ourselves here in Cambridge, which is a beautiful facility. And the primary reason for moving here, one is it's more central to our core markets, which are the UK and Europe, and gives us great reach into extra resources that we wouldn't typically have access to in Australia. I guess the experience has been somewhat mixed, in so much that our primary goal was to raise capital in the UK, to take our technology and to scale our technology from a European base. And I guess we ran into COVID, we ran into lockdown, we ran into Brexit. We've run into quite a few significant headwinds, which I'm sure is the case of many startups. And the investor market, I think, has gone cool. And I guess we're victims of that. So we are, we're still very much committed to the time, the investment in getting the wireless zoo established as a mainstream tool for the veterinary industry. Our only, I guess, wish is that we attract the right investor that sees the journey, understands the value, and wants to lean in and help us to scale this company on a successful journey forward.
Yeah, and for anybody who's listening to this, Steve, when you say find the right investor, what do you mean? What, so that people can kind of recognize themselves?
Sure. So we've done 90% of the heavy lifting in terms of building the technology and establishing the global platform, which essentially is a cloud-based infrastructure, which is capable of handling thousands of monitoring activities simultaneously. We've built and done most of the heavy lifting. We are a pre-revenue company, which is really the crux of it. Yeah. So whilst we show great projections and we show, I guess, a lot of stickiness to the industry, most investors want to see a track record of some business, some activity, some revenue generating, and we're simply right between getting that part done. Yeah. So whilst we're not brand new, looking at a concept that we're just about to get started, we are in fact a teenager, if you want, that have got we've got our bumps and scars, and we've also developed our personality as a company going forward. And again, most people are looking to adopt either very super early or companies that are looking to scale, having had some revenue track record. And we're stuck in the middle, if you want, of not having the revenue track record and not being super early. And I think we're looking for a very specific type of investor that sees the growth opportunity and is willing to start on that journey with us.
Okay, no, fantastic. And what would you say, apart from the business, has been your biggest learning so far in business and in life, really, Steve?
Yeah, so in life, I think whatever plans you lay down and whatever effort you think is required to get your objectives achieved, triple it or even quadruple it. It's really down to character and grit and having that can-do attitude and not being fazed by disappointment There are going to be obstacles, there are going to be failures, and to keep your passion and your determination, not just personally, but also making sure your team feels the same way. So from a learning perspective, I think life throws up many, many more obstacles than I think you can bargain for, and you've got to find ways in which to deal with them. From a business perspective, I guess, we all feel that, we have the best and greatest new technology. And one of the things that's always interesting is how other people perceive you. And the veterinary industry is an industry that has gone through tremendous change. It's evolving really quickly, and I think it's quite a pragmatic ecosystem and slow to adopt new technology. And I think we saw some of that present in Wireless Zoo. So we saw the dynamic entrepreneurial vets that felt that this was the best thing since sliced bread, to the traditional white coat vet that really doesn't want to rely on technology to do, to perform their skills. And I guess what we're seeing now is that most vet practices are realizing that automation and a digital capability is going to save time, is going to take pressure off staff who are already under significant pressure to deliver, quite emotional and sophisticated care to their companions. And it's a very high stress environment, and we know the impact of burnout, and high stress, professions. It takes its toll, and we're really committed to taking the pressure off the human side, whilst improving the experience for the pets that are being monitored and looked after.
Yeah, absolutely fantastic. And Steve, when you think about success, who would be the first person that would come to your mind, and why would that be?
Well, I measure success in terms of impact. If you're making an impact, a positive impact, and people become accustomed to and dependent on your capability, your services, your value proposition, I see that as successful. I look at very simple values, in that for us, it's not about making huge amounts of money. It's about being a company that offers value to the industry that we want to serve. And my measure of that is that in 12 months' time, after a vet practice has become familiar and using Wireless Zoo in its day-to-day, I go back to them in 12 months' time and say, would you return it to us? If they say no, we become dependent on it and we wouldn't be without it, then I would view that as a successful achievement, that you become part of their furniture, part of their infrastructure. And the only, I guess, if I look at an individual, I don't want to just go to the cliched Amazons, Teslas, because they're huge engines. Everybody aspires to be those big unicorns. But I feel that the success for me is a company that's dependable, is good to do business with, understands that that perfection is a journey and not an end state, and that we're constantly looking to improve ourselves. And for me, I'm just trying to think of a business that would sort of typify that. I would say that in my experience, it's an interesting one, and not one that everybody would remember. I don't know if everybody's ever seen a company called Driver's Note.
Okay.
It's a company that is it's a Nordics-based business, and it's a simple software that just follows your journey, and it monitors your car's mileage, business, personal, days that you're starting. It tells you where you are, and it gives me a report every month that I can rely on consistently as to check my my mileage and my whereabouts. And I found it a very reliable service. Whenever I've had a problem, I've called them, and they've really helped me to deal with problems. And I can cite many, many small companies that fly under the radar that offer brilliant service. They're great to interact with, and they're always willing to listen. And most of all, they're accessible. And that's really, I think, important, and something that's very missing from business today.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. It's not about having no problems. It's about how you address those problems for your consumers. Yeah.
Exactly. So it's not. It was a long-winded answer to a quite complicated question about, well, who I would see as successful. But I try and avoid the cliched big guns, but really wanted to focus on some of the smaller businesses that do a great job, that go unnoticed behind the scenes.
Absolutely. And what does the future look like for Alphabet Tech? And what sort of challenges are you seeing going forward, Steve?
So in terms of the future, we are very close to validating our wireless zoo sensors. We're doing that in conjunction with a very prominent academic institution in Switzerland. We're also very close to signing up a European go-to-market agreement with a large supplier to the industry. Until that's done, I would, of course, keep those names confidential for now.
Yes.
But we are looking to scale into Europe in particular in the coming months. And we're hoping that in a year's time, if we sit down, we will have, several hundred installations in Europe, thriving with wireless zoo and really making a difference. So that's what success would look like for us in the short term. Long term, to have all patients being monitored using wearable technologies, with wireless zoo at the center of that phenomenon that's rapidly gaining pace.
Yeah, I think as a pet owner myself and an owner of 2 dogs, if they are ever in the vets, I want that care to be as effective and as comfortable for them as I possibly can.
And in terms of challenges, really for us to scale at the pace that we need, we are really, I guess, dependent on getting the resources, the funding to do that. Okay. So, that is our most immediate challenge, is, establishing a really strong investor, connection that will, work with us to scale the business. And of course, every business, as ours does, has an exit strategy. And, we're confident that we'll give very, very solid returns, but also create a legacy and a platform moving forward that will only grow and grow.
Fantastic. And if you look back over your life, Steve, what would be the best piece of advice you would give to your 18-year-old self, do you think?
Is never miss an opportunity to do something that you don't like.
Okay, yeah.
Learn to love the things that you find difficult and get them done. I think it's very easy today to be distracted by, your smartphone, your computer, your online, social media things. For me, the advice is to stay active and not miss an opportunity to get things done, even if you don't like it. And simple things like just getting up in the morning, having an objective, achieving those objectives, and looking for ways in which you can do more.
Yeah, really key. I think it's a great piece of advice. Get comfortable being uncomfortable.
Yeah, because life is uncomfortable. And, for me, I've got 2 younger children as well as older kids, and my older children didn't have the distraction that the younger ones have today. And we are working and living in a very different world to the one that I grew up in, certainly. And I think it comes with very unique challenges. And those challenges are more distraction, away from any sort of purpose. So I try and build mental toughness, try and build a bit of grit into our life and not to take things for granted.
Absolutely. I think it's really challenging to be young these days. I absolutely agree with you. And just before we finish, Steve, is there anything else that we should know about Alphabet Tech? anything you're working on, anything that it would be good to share?
Yes, of course. We have a very clear R&D plan.
Yeah.
We work with the Swiss government with our manufacturing partners out of Neuchâtel in Switzerland, which is famous for its watches and very micro, low-powered, sophisticated sensor technology. And we're working on some new capabilities for the wireless SOO beyond pulse oximetry and temperature. And there's some really exciting stuff coming through that will increase the capabilities of our monitoring scope, but I think will make a real difference. So watch this space. There's lots coming through, and we think that that being able to monitor and report back your patient's health, why should it be any different from human, capabilities? And that's what we're doing. We've built this product specifically for animal physiology. It's a great market, beautiful people working with it. In fact, one vet mentioned to me before I close is that 30% of his day-to-day responsibility is delivering, medical care for his patients. The other 70% is the psychology, the psychological effects of patients in distress and the pet parents that have to endure when their companions are sick because they don't speak, and typically they're relying on the profession to do the right things and make the right decisions, and we just want to help in that process.
So, well, Steve, thank you very much for joining us on the
Did you get that?
The video. It's been an absolute pleasure. You should just repeat that one more time, Steve.
Yes, it's Steve at Alpha VTS.com. Looks like we're running into some technical challenges, John.
It does. But it's Steve at alphavts.com.
That's it.